This is just a quick introduction video just to explain to you how the units are structured, how they're set up, and some of the rationale behind that. So you can see here that we've got our folder for the Year 7 PSHE unit, and we've got the main folder is subdivided into the 6 folders for each of the core themes as per the creative curriculum. So we will start with core theme 6, which is managing change. Now this is obviously the kind of introductory unit for year 7. So the one that you would be teaching them at the start of the year, establishing the ground rules and those kind of secondary expectations, making sure that all students are kind of on the secondary page, that they are kind of meeting the expectations and kind of giving them some time to adjust, I guess, to those as well. So as you can see, the managing change unit provides that structure for them. So within the folder, I imagine most teachers will be using the lesson PowerPoints. So if we go into the lesson PowerPoints, you can see that there are PowerPoints with audio. These are the ones where I have recorded my voice over the PowerPoint slides so that if a student needs to leave the classroom for whatever reason, or if they miss a lesson, that they can have a laptop, they can have headphones, and they can still listen to a teacher-led lesson, even if they are outside of the mainstream group. So for these lessons, as you can see, it will start playing automatically. You can see the audio symbol down here. These will start playing an audio automatically once it's in presentation mode. Some teachers might not want that, so there is exactly the same PowerPoints are within this folder without audio. So as you can see, exactly the same lessons, no audio on here at all. And then for some students, it might be better for them to watch it almost as a video. So within this folder, there is the YouTube links for the videos, kind of when they're recorded into a continuous piece of video for students to pause and play at their leisure. Okay, so again, if you've got a student who is struggling with the kind of sensory environment of the classroom, or you've got a student who is working one-to-one or part of a small group with a support member of staff, these students can continue working with, like I said, it being still teacher-led in some capacity, talking them through the tasks. And the beauty of that is that obviously it can be paused and started again and played again if students need the instructions repeated. These all have subtitles on as well. So for students who might have hearing impairment, there's the kind of the visuals of the subtitles as well. Okay, so as well as the lesson PowerPoints, there is the student workbook. So this follows the lesson PowerPoints exactly. So the tasks are all exactly the same, but again, it just gives teachers that flexibility to be able to kind of students to work at their own pace, for teachers to break the group up into smaller groups to work with members of support staff, and students to be able to kind of still progress through the lesson at a different pace. And it also allows us to reduce the kind of the writing demand for students as well. Okay. So as you can see, there's spaces where students can record their answers, where they can draw or they can circle the images instead. On each workbook and on each PowerPoint, there is a focus on the vocabulary for learning. So within the workbook, it looks like this. Students have got a copy of all the flashcards. If they're with a member of support staff, the idea would be that the member of support staff would be to do a quick kind of checking the vocabulary. Okay, can we use these words in a sentence? Can we explain what they mean? Can we elaborate on them? If students are within the mainstream class, or they're within the kind of the larger class setting, there are some suggestions of ways in which those words can be learnt, and I'll just show you as an example here. This looks the same across all of the units. So we've got the flashcards and we've got some suggestions of the key kind of activities and games that might be used to consolidate this vocabulary. These games, as an explanation, if these are new to you, there's an explanation of all of these games on a separate PowerPoint that I've put together, which I'll show you in a moment. So these games are really, really important for building confidence, building a little bit of fun and kind of a bit of play into the lesson when students are kind of learning the vocabulary, which can sometimes be a little bit of a barrier. So really, really important that time is given for teachers to check that students understand the words that they need in order to unlock the content, and also to build confidence. So we have our lesson PowerPoints, we have our student workbook, we have for students who obviously when they're working on the workbook, there are extra challenge tasks throughout, and obviously there's optional scaffolding that can be removed by teachers if they feel that that's appropriate. So, if you've got a higher group of students, you might want to remove some of the kind of circling the answers, and it might be just that students need to write their answer, okay? But the scaffolding is there for teachers to remove as they see fit. Obviously, it's easier to remove rather than to add scaffolding in, which is why we've done it like that. And again, when it comes to the final task, there's always a choice. So obviously that's really important for students to have autonomy and ownership over their work. So again, if you've got a higher ability group, you might want to remove one of the easier tasks. There is always one task that is quite has very minimal writing, and so you might want to remove that task if actually your students are more able. Again, vice versa, if they're less able, you might want to remove some of the kind of more structured writing tasks. Okay, so up to you. Again, it's easier to kind of take tasks away rather than add them in. The students that are stretching beyond the learning objectives, the students who complete those activities pretty independently, that they've got a good grasp of the vocabulary, those students you might want to guide towards a challenge project. So there is one of these challenge projects in each unit within each folder. And the idea here is that actually students can, when they've met the learning objectives, students can work on this at their own pace. There is one overarching task for each unit, and each week breaks down a little segment of that for students to work on. Now, this was the premise that students probably aren't going to be finishing the lesson much more than 15 minutes before the rest of the students. So they're quite short, snappy tasks. But for managing change, the overall project task is to plan a transition day. And we're obviously drawing attention to the skills that students are building. Lots of focus on independence, on reflection, on empathy, to really build on those really core skills that we're teaching through these units. So students will work through one activity each week, building up to so starting with a kind of brainstorming, then kind of planning, creation, evaluation, feedback, model. Okay. So that's a challenge project. We've also got the homework booklets. We don't want to make these too academic, I guess, but what we thought was that homework is a really missed opportunity sometimes to make sure that students have that language for learning before they enter the lesson. So the homework booklets are all the same in the sense that each week it provides students with an opportunity to reflect on the learning, to ask any questions, but most importantly to pre-learn the vocabulary for the week ahead, and also to consolidate the vocabulary from that week as well. Because obviously without that access to the vocabulary, students are going to arrive at the lesson feeling not very confident, not very engaged, and kind of, students are sometimes very good at masking what they don't know. And we know that obviously vocabulary, if students mask that they don't know that, they're actually missing that key understanding of the core concepts, which obviously in PSHE is so important. We also want every student to be able to participate well in the discussion, whether that's with a partner, whether it's with a whole class or with another member of staff. And simply, if they don't have the vocabulary for learning, they're not going to be able to participate as fully as they could at the capability that they're able to without that vocabulary. So it's really, really important that they're given the opportunity to pre-learn that and to revisit that during the lesson. So that's our homework booklet. We have vocabulary. So the homework booklet has the vocabulary flashcards at the back as well. So they're there for easy access for students, and they're also saved here as well because in this format they might be bit easier for teachers to print, laminate and cut up for use again in starter activities and for consolidation activities. Okay, so one more thing when it comes to the lesson PowerPoints, just to draw your attention to the fact that I don't know kind of how familiar you all are with academic language, but we're really trying to build in the academic language skills across each unit. So you will see that when it comes to the show and my understanding task, as well as bringing in the key vocabulary, we're also bringing in different text types. And obviously this is really, really crucial in English, but also across the curriculum, that students have that familiarity with not only reading a range of different texts, but producing a range of different texts as well, because this is going to support their access of all reading materials and all writing tasks across the curriculum. So it's a really, really valuable opportunity here to support that. Finally, we've got, as I mentioned, games to learn new words. So this is just for teachers who might be new to some of the kind of language acquisition activities. We've got a range of different tasks here. You can, as we can see, we've got these slides on each lesson PowerPoint and some different options. So I suggest that teachers kind of pick one to start with and just kind of rotate them, develop students' confidence with engaging in each of the games and each of the activities, and obviously tailor it to the needs and learning styles of your class. But these can, these can be easily copied and pasted. So if you think actually you've got a quieter class who don't really want to kind of do too much verbal, you might have some non-verbal students in that class, it might be actually better to use your flashcards to create a quick match the word and the definition activity. It might be that actually you've got a class that's a little bit kind of bouncy and needs a little bit of action. So doing something like the vocabulary relay is going to be really effective for them. So you can just kind of cut and paste those slides and pop them into your PSHE. I didn't obviously want to be too prescriptive with which activities we use to develop vocabulary, because sometimes, it depends on the mood of the class as well on that day. So those are our kind of our folders. That's how they're set up. This is kind of the additional support, I guess, that you've got. One thing that I did want to point out, the lesson recordings at this point have only been recorded for managing change and puberty and body development, just because we wanted to kind of get some feedback really on how well these are being received. If you start with managing change unit and you think, oh, actually, yep, these audios are great, really want more of these, then we will get the rest of them done as soon as possible. However, you might find that actually, maybe a video is better, maybe it's better to kind of deliver the audio in a different format, or remove the audio altogether. So for that, we're very much open to feedback with what your thoughts are, and just kind of wanting to see what works best for your schools and the individuals that you work with. So please feel free to give us as much feedback as possible and get in touch with anything that you would like to see more of as well in the sessions. That'd be really, really helpful for us as we create the other year groups and key stages.